Many Indian companies have become very global now. Tata is like acquiring Tata, like Chorus Steel, Tatley, the British tea company. Reliance is investing billions of dollars in China and overseas. So lots of Indian companies are becoming global. Lots of global companies are in India. So it's becoming very global economy. As far as relationship with Japan is concerned, Buddhism is a big foundation. Then, as the gentleman mentioned, the ODA. India is the largest recipient of ODA from Japan, and that has gone to the very grassroots development of India. So it's very highly respected. Not enough promotion about it. Japan is not a very self-promoting country. Then I think the human resource exchange is of very high quality. So very good respect between the two countries. So lots of common foundation between the two countries. And as I mentioned, Japan can be a good role model for India and vice versa. India can be a good role model for diversification, globalization, and entrepreneurship of Japan. Demographically very compatible. Japan is very graying society. India is very young. Japan needs globalization where India is very strong. Capital, Japan has the capital but not the growth. India has the growth. So it's a good investment relationship. Japan has the technology and India has the need for it. India has the natural resources. So very complementary with each other. This comprehensive economic partnership agreement that Japan and India signed recently for the exchange of technology, capital, human resource, very comprehensive. As Haraoka-san mentioned, renewable energy, power, energy efficiency in all aspects. Power generation like hydropower, nuclear, clean coal, new city development, lots of new eco-cities are coming up in India. Japan is very good at it. So that's a huge opportunity. Consumer market is huge, of course. I think for Japan the first opportunity is the high-end, rich Indian community. But then it can also percolate to middle class and the BOP. But I think to begin with, because Japanese technology is expensive, so it should focus on the high-end consumer market. Education-wise, there are lots of new collaboration happening between India and Japan. A new IIT in India has been created, IIT Hyderabad, Indian Institute of Technology, which is with Japanese collaboration. And Tokyo University, Waseda, Keio, Kyushu, Tohoku, there are a large group of Japanese universities who are collaborating on that. And Japanese industry is also collaborating, like Sony, Suzuki, Mizuho Corporate Bank, Nissan. So it's also academic corporate partnership as a model for the new IIT in India because Japan is good at it. On the vocational education, a very good example is that Toyota has created a school for automobile engineering in India, more for the vocational education, because India has been very weak at it. Like India had these ITIs, as I mentioned, but they were not very effective in the education so far. And Japan is very good in vocational education. So now lots of Japanese companies and vocational education institutes are getting into India. Toyota created their own school for their own human resource development, and it's very successful. Then infrastructure as a whole, India has a target to build 20 kilometers of road every day. So a huge task. Lots of new ports are coming up. 30 new airports being planned in the next few years. 24 new cities being planned in the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, and they want to build them as eco-city. So lots of requirement for Japanese technology there. Tata Docomo is an example of the telecom collaboration. Manufacturing, Japan of course is very strong at it. In India the service industry is good, but service industry is not sufficient to provide employment for the large masses. It's a very twisted, very skewed economic model where few people are getting richer because of service industry like IT. But for the masses, for the employment, manufacturing is needed for India, and that's where Japan is now getting into India, in the manufacturing sector. And now Japanese people are considering India as a base for exporting globally from India. This is something I have written about how India looks at Japan. It has been a very positive image still about Japan being high technology, high quality, hard working people, honest with integrity. But recently in business circle, unfortunately, I am coming across, Manish, you must be also facing it. Now we are finding that Indian people are getting a little frustrated about business dealings with Japan because of the reasons I mentioned. The decision making process in Japan and India is very different. Japan takes a lot of time in deciding. Indian people are getting frustrated. Without understanding Japan, as I mentioned here, Indian people are missing some good points about Japan. That one, Japan has a long-term vision and they care for relationship and environment. That's why they take long time before they start a project. They care for the society, they care for the employees, they care for high quality public infrastructure and like the whole ecosystem, the whole society being like low crime, high education. And these points are being missed in India. India doesn't know about them well, about Japan. And India is getting frustrated about the slow decision making in Japan. So that's a challenge of India and Japan relations. Again, it's like Japan being very homogeneous, India being very diverse. Of course, the world is very diverse. Japanese people are very modest. The rest of the world is becoming very verbal. In the rest of the world now, self-promotion is the new norm. Everyone promotes themselves. You have to be big in the media, you have to talk big about yourself, but Japan remains very modest. Again, like rest of the world has developed, like especially India has developed with Western models. So it's becoming more difficult for Japan or Indian companies to adapt to the Japanese business practices because India has already gone too far with the Western way of thinking, way of doing business. Japan, very predictable country, India is very dynamic, that's where entrepreneurship is needed. As we already spoke about it, Japan is very advanced planning country and India is a dynamic balancing. That's what leads to the decision making process. In Japan, the decision is made after all the planning and the execution in Japan is very fast. But in India, you can't do that because the environment is very volatile. So you decide quickly and start working on it and then adapt as the environment changes. So when Japan takes time in this, India gets frustrated. And Japan gets frustrated because India is not providing them with information for their planning. So it's understanding of each other is necessary. Japan, of course, is not very flexible. India is a very flexible country. It has to be. So as a little conclusion, while India is volatile, but it's a great opportunity. But it needs a high-level assessment. It needs a high-risk, high-return approach. And that means the need for top-level decision-making and entrepreneurship. So just as an example of India-Japan relations, or for that matter, Japan's relations with any country, it's a big opportunity and need for entrepreneurship. And that's where I think all of us can contribute and become the leader of the future. It's a language we need to learn because that's a challenge. But once you learn the language, it's a lot of advantage. Thank you.
Thank you very much.